What is going on? I'm Wac, that's Scotty T, and guess what? It's week 1 of the Texas high school football season. The grass has been cut, the lines have been drawn, and man, just around the corner, Thursday, it's coming. Less than 4 days away at this point, and we're going to be having those quote-unquote Friday on a Thursday night lights, and I, for one, cannot wait. But before we talk about anything, I, of course, have to bring in my main man, Scotty. Scotty, how you doing today?
Josh, did you write that down, man? Because that was a phenomenal intro. The grass has been cut. Pads are popping. Week 1 of Texas high school football is upon us. We cannot be more excited here at VYPE Media. Josh, I'm doing good, man. How are you doing, and how was your weekend?
My weekend was good. I'm doing good. Weekend's good. And we'll probably talk about this for a little bit of the show. I've been binging. I finished binging, I should say, Friday Night Lights. I guess to kind of get me in that spirit, if you will. So I'm ready to roll, man. It's if that show doesn't get you pumped for some football, I don't know what will.
Bro, I gotta tell you, we didn't talk about this beforehand. I watched the first episode of Friday Night Lights the other day too because I was so excited for it. I watched the first episode and then the very last episode because I can, and I've seen the show before like a billion times. But man, Coach Eric Taylor, that's got to be one of the best pilot episodes of any TV show, I would say. What do you think about it? Is that a hot take, or what do you think, Josh?
That is an interesting take. Like, to say it's one of the best pilots out there. I mean, it's a great sports pilot, that's for sure. I mean,
I'm saying just like one of the best pilots of any really TV show that's out there because it starts with Monday and then it works you through the week and then you got game time and then spoilers about what happens, but what happens with Jason Street and Tim Riggins and all those guys like in Smash. It sets up the series so well for a pilot episode, and then when you hear that explosions in the sky, mwah, oh, so beautiful.
Hold on, can we talk about this show for a second? And yes, I know it's a show about football, and it's not technically football, but let's talk about this. Tim Riggins was a sophomore in season 1. Are you kidding me? Like, I thought going in, like, I didn't realize until like season 3 that he was a sophomore, right? Because he's still on the team in season 3. But like, he's a sophomore in season 1. Are you kidding me? Like, I get Saracen, right? Matt Saracen, the backup who becomes a starting quarterback. Yeah, I get that as a sophomore. That works. But Tim Riggins as a sophomore, are you kidding me? I was so surprised when season 3 rolls around and he's still on the team. I'm like, what? And even Tyra as well was a sophomore. I thought they were seniors in season 1.
And Lila Garrity too, I think, is a sophomore dating Jason Street, the senior, who is supposed to be going to Notre Dame. Which, on a side note, it was NBC that produced Friday Night Lights, and on the pilot episode, the Jason Street's parents are talking to a Notre Dame scout, partially because, Josh, we're in this business. NBC has the media rights to Notre Dame and not really any other team. So just an interesting little side note there for the people at home. I could be wrong, but, I mean, look, the dots connect. Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch to have Tyra, Lila, and Tim all be sophomores. With high school shows like that, it's difficult because you age out of it. That's what a show like Community really struggled with, is that community college is supposed to be a couple years for most folks. And how are you going to have a 6-7 long year show about people who are supposed to kind of rotate it out? So it's hard. And that's why I think Friday Night Lights did such a good job, to be honest, though, is bringing in the East still inside it on season 4 and 5, if I'm not mistaken, because it brought in a new crop of characters that you can know and get developed while keeping the core central characters of Coach Taylor and his wife, Tammy.
Yeah, although J.D. McCoy just mysteriously disappears in season 5. But let's not talk about that. Now, here's a fun question for you is, did you ever just sit and watch and try and guess their opponents? Because obviously the towns were fake, but the mascots were still real. Let's reference episode 1. That was the Westlake Chaparrals. You just see the chaps on the jersey. Did you ever just sit there and watch and be like, okay, this school is supposed to be X, Y, and Z?
No, I have not, but now I'm going to. Especially rewatching the pilot last week, I was like, that's Westlake. Like, those are their jerseys. It literally says Chaps right across the top. Another quick side note, though, on this is that they shoot these TV pilots and whatnot. Mostly, a lot of it's up in Canada, to be honest. And it's, look, if you have to get ready for a fall show, you probably got to shoot that time in early spring, February, March, whatever it is. Up in Canada, that's still really cold out there. So in the pilot episode, it's week 1 of Texas high school football in August. It is so generally hot. But you look up at the stands, everybody's wearing jackets and stuff because they're filming at the time wherever they're filming, and it's cold outside, so they're wearing jackets, but it doesn't reflect that time of year here in Texas. So it's interesting. I think somebody at NBC or some fans eventually called them out on it. They're like, hey, we love the show, but you got to be more real. So then they kind of fixed that towards the end. But, yeah, clearly somebody wasn't really thinking about that at the beginning of the show.
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think you might be incorrect on this. I'm pretty sure they filmed everything in Austin. But again, I think you do bring up the point. Yeah, they filmed it. That stadium was Pflugerville Stadium for the longest time before
was it?
Yeah, so that was Pflugerville ISD.
I'm
With
so wrong,
yeah, all this stuff was filmed in Austin, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the reason they were wearing jackets is because you can't film during August through late December, so they're having to film probably in January, February in Texas after the football season, and it's not going to be terribly cold, but it's still going to be cold enough where you're going to want a jacket. So yeah, so some of those things like the Pflugerville place, that was their old stadium before they built that gigantic one, which is like right across the street now. Even I think even the East Dillon Stadium was actually like right behind the Pflugerville Stadium that they use. So yeah, very very like they had the addresses and everything from the houses they lived in. You could go visit them if you want. The Alamo Freeze was a Dairy Queen. So yeah, so very, very cool. Arnett Meade is probably the hardest one for you when you watch. Arnett Meade is probably the hardest one to figure out what school. It took me a while. I won't like spoil the team for you so you can figure it out, but the clipboard gave it away for me when I saw the clipboard. And then I think like eventually they kind of moved away, especially when they got outside like in the state. I don't know if some of those teams are real Texas high schools. Like I think the team they beat the first time, I don't know if that was a real Texas high school. The one they lost to, I don't think was for me at least, they like the uniform color and the mascot. They really didn't line up. Because that's always how you figure it out, right? When you watch the show, like when you're watching, you see the mascot name, you see the colors, you're like, okay, I know what school this is. I never really got that impression from some of the state teams they ended up playing.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and check on it then, because especially working in this business, I'm a little bit more aware of these things, and we'll find out, especially on who's that mascot later. But overall, though, I mean, great show. Coach Eric Taylor, I mean, he's one of the GOATs, one of the all-time guys. I'll put him up there with like Jack Bauer or Michael Scott in terms of TV characters that I love. So
don't forget Ted Lasso now. Ted Lasso's the GOAT now for me. Oh. I love that guy.
Bro, you already stole my one good thing. I was going to say Ted Lasso. I'm not even kidding.
Hey, I didn't steal it. It's still yours to take. One last thing on Friday Night Lights before we move on is, what's funny is that, and I don't know if anybody mentioned it after the fact that it happened, but I mean, in season 5, so spoilers for people that haven't seen the show. That's 10 years.
Look, it ended in what, 2012 or 13, whatever it was. Like, if you haven't seen it by now, I'm sorry. You're past the spoiler warning.
But I mean, they win state on a Hail Mary, and it's almost like it's eerily reminiscent of the Duncanville North Shore Hail Mary. Kind of similar field position. He kind of scrambles away from some pressure, heave hose to the left side or right side if you're, depending on how you look at it. But everyone know if you're a Texas high school football fan, the corner of the end zone I'm talking about for North Shore versus Duncanville. Kind of the same area, but the thing is, you don't see the catch; they kind of fade away, almost like they're saying this could actually never happen in real life. And then a few, 5-6 years later, it actually did happen in real life. So, but yeah, it's like this looks like North Shore versus Duncanville, man. And sure,
yeah.
But
in fact, I saw Taylor Kitsch one time at Top Golf in Austin. It was back when I was in college. We're doing like some sort of take a date thing or whatever, and Taylor Kitsch just chilling there in the lobby at Top Golf. So, because he lives in Austin, if I'm not mistaken, or he did at the time. He's like adopted Texas as his home, which is awesome.
Well, hey, there you go. I mean, you'd figure some of them might just, spending the years there, all for 5 seasons. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great place to be. That's where I am. So, hey, I'm not blaming them. So, but let's move away from fake Texas high school football. Which I mean, I could go on about some of the craziness. Like I know, last thing I guess last thing they are 8-1 with only one loss in district, and they had to win that last game to make the playoffs. I don't know if I've ever seen a team lose 2 games and not make the playoffs in district. And it would have to be like a small district for that to happen because I think it's usually, if I'm saying it's 3 teams in district make the playoffs. I mean, so there you go, 4 teams. Scott's telling me. So, I mean, the fact that they were 8-1 and they had to win that last game to make playoffs. Get out of here. Like, I know you got to drum up some drama and stuff. And how many last second games? Like, Eric Taylor is going to be the coach with the most last second wins in the history of Texas high school football. Because, like, every game they're winning at the buzzer. Are you kidding me right now? But I loved it all the same.
It's fantastic. I mean, yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds me, I'm not the same, when Baylor made it to the Sugar Bowl a couple years ago. Like, we won, I think, 6 games by less than 3 points. And in football, that doesn't happen. It was like we had no business winning those games. Eric Taylor, yeah, it's 4 teams from each district make the playoffs now. So everybody and their mother, it seems like, makes the playoffs. But it's all about those deep runs. And it's awesome, man. So, Josh, are you more of a movie guy or TV show guy with Friday Night Lights?
That's a good question. I mean, I think maybe again could be recency bias. I just watched it, but maybe TV show because you get to grow with the characters more. I feel like where as in with the movie you get a limited time with them, and like you said, like seems like everyone's a senior on that team from the movie, whereas in this one they're all sophomore, like sophomores that I've seen. I don't know. I've seen maybe one sophomore that looks like they do. You're talking about maybe like just like, okay, you're a sophomore, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Tim Riggins is doing adult things, put it that way. And he looks like he's 25 years old. And he's supposed to be 16. Like, get out of here with that. But hey, we love it. It's a great show. I think both movie and TV show are great. Man, I don't know. I love the halftime speech in the movie. Like, but especially when they all sing the Lord's Prayer and whatnot, that's just, I'm getting chills just thinking about it right now. But yeah, I like your point about you get to know the characters better, more character development in TV shows, get to know them better. So I think both are great in their own equal way, but obviously it was the movie that kicked it all off.
Yeah, and hey, what better way to start the football season than watching some Friday Night Lights? But man, football is here. I guess
it was really the book.
What? Say it again?
It was the book that kicked it off.
Yeah, you be right there. So Texas high school football is beginning. Kicks off Thursday with we got I think we got 7 or 8 games that we're streaming. So hey, if you're not doing anything Thursday night, want to watch some football, VYPE.com, check it out. But Scotty
and Flo,
yes, and Flo, who we are partnered with. Tell me some of these.
Josh.
Yes.
Josh, who wins state? I'm putting you on the spot right now. Who wins state?
For 6A. I mean, how can you not? Just based off of nothing, right? I mean, you have to pick some of these things based off of last year, and
these are way too early picks.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not pick Westlake? I mean, their offense is still stacked. Their defense is going to be what's going to make or break them because they lost 8 starters off of defense. So how do you fill those holes? That's going to be the key to Westlake getting back to state. Also, I mean, do they go Division 1 or Division 2? There's so many variables when you talk about 6A because 5A, you know where you're going, right? And but with 6A, you're either getting Division 1 or Division 2. So and you don't know that until right before right around where playoffs are happening. So I would love to see Westlake and Katy. That would be an awesome kind of matchup as the 2 winners last year playing this year. Katy's got a good chance to get back again with who they have. Will Turboff, his sleeper pick is Spring. I don't know if he said they would win, but he said they would at least make the championship game. So Spring, yeah, and I think Spring will have to go through Dallas to get there. So it will be interesting to see. That's a very, very courageous pick by Will Turboff. What do you think?
Woo! Yeah, he had made Marbury on the VYPE podcast last week, which was awesome. Phenomenal job with him. Go check that out if you do. Will Turboff, one of our VYPE ambassadors, he will have a podcast dropping weekly on Wednesdays, if I'm not mistaken, Josh. So go check those out. Turboff's in the know, man. He's got the scuttlebutt on a bunch of things here. So yeah, Matt and Josh over here are really big on spring. I was really big on spring last year, and I think that they're still really good. Again, this year, obviously, Bishop Davenport is leading the charge there. At quarterback, just committed to Utah State. Man, we were looking at those DFW rankings, though. When you got to, because they're in Division II, you got to go through those Dallas schools. It's just hard. And it's hard anywhere, but especially coming out of Region 1, 2, and 3 is very difficult because Region 1 and 2 are split between DFW and Houston. And then Region 3, you have all the Houston powers here, Katy, North Shore, Shadow Creek, Ridge Point, Atascocita, the list goes on. It just depends on where you fall, I think. It really does. And to your point, a lot of it depends on who goes D1, D2. Katy went D2 last year because Seven Lakes made the playoffs. They ended up winning a state championship. Westlake went D2 2 years ago and won state. And then they went D1 last year and still won the state championship. And so, yeah, it's hard to say right now. Obviously, I think Westlake is one of the favorites just because they have Kate Klubnik back and the Clemson commit stud quarterback. If I'm not – Josh, did he win Elite 11?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, won Elite 11. Like, the kid's a stud. Now, it's my understanding they lost a lot on defense at Westlake, so they're going to have to figure it out. But as the season gets on, I think they'll be able to understand the schemes a little bit more, and those guys get some reps, get some game time reps. They'll be fine. The farewell tour for Todd Dodge as well, so he wants to go out on top. Don't blame him. You know, Southlake would have been in the conversation. I think they still will be, but obviously losing Quinn Ewers it's hard to replace the number one recruit in the country, right? So, and then obviously here in Houston, Katy, North Shore, Atascocita, Ridge Point can make some noise. So, and then we also can't forget about Duncanville, Allen. Man, there's so many great teams out there. I love it.
Well, who are you picking? You got to pick one.
Okay, so I'm going to go D1 and D2. Obviously, this is speculation, right? I'm going to say Westlake.
Just pick one 6A. What? One 6A school. It doesn't matter if it's D1, D2. Just one 6A school that's for sure winning the state championship. Who you got?
Katy.
Oh, Katy with the back-to-back. All right, so now I'm picking Westlake. I'm going to stick with my hometown team.
Here's why.
Go ahead. Tell me why.
Katy didn't lose that much. They still returned a lot from that team last year. Their quarterback last year was a sophomore, so he's a junior now. They have Seth Davis at running back, who led the team in rushing as a sophomore. He's back as well. So they still have Ty Canna. D1 commits all over the place. Bobby Taylor can go on the A&M. Ty Canna's going to the USC. They got so many playmakers on that team, and then there's just such a program. That's why I'm going with Katy.
Hey, you know I can't fault you for that. I'm just going with my hometown team. So,
you can't go wrong with that for all the reasons we stated earlier. You can't go wrong with that either.
Here you go. Do you think we'll have a first-time UIL champion, 1A through 6A, this year?
1A through 6A?
Yep. So that's 12 teams. Will one team, will it be their first time winning a state championship?
Was there any first-time winners last year?
I believe it was two. I think it was 2 or 3 last year that actually were the first-time state champions.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Just because really at the 1A, 2A level, that's where you can see the most. You can see like a program get hot or whatnot because there's not as many teams at those levels. So if one small town has a good crop of kids that can come through and gelled well, then yeah, they can go in.
Now, this is one more question for you before we move on to our fun segments. Will the games be when we get to the state finals? Will the games be as interesting, or not as interesting, I should say, as last year? Especially with 5A and 6A, where most of them were blowouts. Are we going to have some down to the wire games this year, Scott?
All right, so let's run it back. Carthage killed them. Argyle killed them. Aledo smoked them. Who won the other 5A state championship?
That's a good question. It was Denton. Was it Denton Ryan?
Denton Ryan.
Yep.
Who did Denton Ryan play?
Let's figure it out. You talk about the 6A while I...
Yeah, and then like South Lake Carroll and Westlake was by far the most interesting game last year because Cedar Hill and Katy kicked their behinds.
Cedar Park. That's who it was.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, I was surprised that Denton Ryan beat Cedar Park as much as they did because Cedar Park could have put up a lot of points. I just think Denton Ryan had a really good defensive game plan for him. Look, I'm going to say the games will be more competitive because theoretically it's the state championship game. All those teams won their way there and deserve to be at those games. I don't really know why there were such blowouts, to be honest. The only ones that really I wasn't shocked about was Carthage and Argyle at the 4A level because last year I think those teams were just head and shoulders better than everybody else. It is what it is. Argyle was just on a tear that season. Carthage was just being Carthage. So I was surprised at the 5A and 6A level. I think Westlake, whenever they beat North Shore, that really put the confidence in them that, hey, we can go out and beat South Lake Carroll. But South Lake Carroll probably thought the same thing beating Duncanville. Duncanville and North Shore, I thought we were going to have a round 3, 3 years in a row, which would have been crazy. But, yeah, all that being said, yes, the games will be closer.
Hey,
what do you think?
I think they can be. I think it obviously depends on who gets there, but I think
I'm going to say except for Aledo. If Aledo gets there, they're gonna kill whoever gets there.
Or Carthage. If Carthage gets there.
Or Carthage, yeah. Yeah. When Carthage gets to the state championship game, they will win in a big time. The only team that I think off the top of my head that could give Aledo a run for their money is Fort Bend Marshall here in Houston. Just because they got so many dynamic playmakers and a lot of speed here at Fort Bend Marshall, and they played Fort Bend Marshall played Aledo for the state championship 3 years ago and 2 years ago. 3 years ago they lost pretty badly. 2 years ago they were competitive but still lost, and then they fell to Crosby in the state in the regional semis, if I'm not mistaken, and then Crosby went on to play Aledo for the state championship. So that's my prediction. If Aledo and Fort Bend Marshall get there, it will be a game, but if it's anybody else, Aledo's going to kill them.
Well, we'll have a lot to talk about next week for sure when it comes to all that because we will have officially played week 1 of Texas high school football. But let's move on.
Wait, Josh, who wins a 5A state championship in your book?
I don't know. It's really a toss-up. I mean, not a toss-up, but there's just so many teams that I think have to get, kind of have rebuild and stuff like that. So, I mean,
yeah,
you could say, what? You could probably pick the ones you want, like I did with Westlake, but I don't know, man. What do you think?
Well, Crosby, who made it to state championship game last year against Aledo, Crosby lost a lot of players. Denton Ryan, I think they still got a good amount of talent over there, and they play Cedar Park. Cedar Park lost their quarterback and their coach. Coach Absack moved to Barbers Hill. So that's why I think Cedar Park and Crosby probably won't make it this year. Sorry, I could be wrong. Please prove me wrong. That'd be awesome. So that's why I say either Aledo or Denton Ryan will win. One of them.
Here you go. Liberty Hill. There you go. They lost to Crosby.
Dude, I love the Liberty Hill pick. I'm not going to lie. I love it.
They lost to Crosby in that heartbreaker. I'm just making a bold prediction right now. Liberty Hill. There you go.
Liberty Hill could win state without throwing a single pass.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's what I got to pick. But let's move on to our fun segment of the show. That's Who's That Mascot? So, of course, Who's That Mascot is a segment where I give Scott a school and he tells me what he thinks that mascot is. Scotty, are you ready? Now, I'm going to throw this first one up there. Actually, I'm not going to throw it up there. I'm going to tell you. Are Are you a wrestling fan, or have you in your life ever been a wrestling fan, Scotty?
No. I wore
Never.
a Randy Savage shirt over the weekend. That's about it.
Do you know who
That was
Goldberg
it.
is? Do you know who Goldberg is?
Who?
Goldberg. Do you know?
Goldberg from like Mighty Ducks?
No, no, no. Goldberg from the wrestler Goldberg. Okay, well this factoid will fall deaf on you, but Goldberg, very big wrestler in the late '90s, early 2000s. He had like I think it was a 180 winning streak in WCW way back in the day. For people that know what I'm talking about, Scotty doesn't. And he's been here sporadically the last few years. Um, his son plays for one of these teams, believe it or not. And his son and some of his teammates were actually on Raw this past Monday. So your first one, you ready, Scotty?
Yeah.
Bernie Champion.
I'm gonna say the Bernie Champion Chargers.
Bernie Champion Chargers. Is that your final answer?
That is it.
That is correct. The Bernie Champion Chargers.
Oh!
There you go. I
I
thought
was
I
gonna
was.
say Eagles, but I think that's Bernie Geneva are the Eagles.
That is correct.
Yeah.
um,
Number two?
bonus point. You get a bonus point. There you go. But yes, so they were actually like him and his teammates were on Raw, and they actually had the jerseys, and I was like, well, if he watches wrestling, he'll get it because they had the jerseys on. But yeah, and then so the SummerSlam pay per view again. You know nothing about wrestling, but so for those watching the SummerSlam pay per view, the son is actually part of it. He got like choked out by the opponent after the match. It was
Really?
yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, it was fake, but Anyways, very fun stuff.
It's all real.
There you go. This
It's all
next
real.
this next one you should get, or you should be shamed for not getting. Houston Christian.
I know it.
What is it?
The Houston Christian Mustangs.
That is correct. The Houston Christian Mustang. You see, Scotty, I'm not out to get you. I told you I picked these randomly, and I really do because as soon as I scrolled and clicked on it, I was like, well, he should get this one right. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm not out to get Scotty. This one he got right. 2 for 2 heading into the last one, the most difficult one. I'll tell you on this one, I will technically accept now. Don't freak out when I say this. I will accept 2 answers for this one, okay? And you'll see why once you see the mascot. But here you go.
Okay.
Roscoe.
My nephew's name is Roscoe.
This is
Rhinos.
Rhinos. I was gonna say this is a super unique mascot. I think it's the only one in the state. Rhinos is incorrect. The Plowboys. I would have also accepted Plowgirls because for the girls' side of things, they're the Plowgirls. So Roscoe Plowboys. That is.
You would not have gotten Plowboys. Where is Roscoe?
That's a good question. Let's find out. Roscoe, Texas.
Roscoe, Texas, everybody. Yeah, like I said, I had a nephew who was born last November, and his name is Roscoe. So
There
you
you
go.
go.
Named
Let's
after
see.
my wife's grandmother or grandfather. Excuse me.
Pulling it up now. Roscoe, Texas is west of Fort Worth, probably about 150 miles. So basically, right in between Fort Worth and Midland is Roscoe, Texas. Probably a 2A or 1A school if I had to look.
Really
I
close to
guess.
Sweetwater.
So there you go, Scotty. Not too bad. Not too bad. 2 for 3. I think that's is that 2 weeks in a row you've been 2 for 3 now. Weren't you 2 for 3
I
last
think
week?
so.
Getting a little streak going on there. Little hot streak going.
We're heating up, baby.
All right. Well, I know you're upset because I mentioned this name, and you were going to use it, but it is time for our one good thing segment. That's where myself and Scotty tell you one good thing from this past week, whatever it may be. Scotty, I know you're upset at me because I said the name Ted Lasso. So why don't you go ahead and tell us why Ted Lasso is your one good thing?
You know, even if I'm not upset about it. You spoiled it, but I'm not upset about it because how can you be upset about watching Ted Lasso or even just hearing the name Ted Lasso? It's just one of those TV shows where you got to be watching. That's why it's my one good thing for this week because the show it's just so unique, I think. Now, I think there is maybe a little too much swearing personally, but that's neither here nor there because you fall in love with the characters. Ted Lasso, he's the kind of, especially with Texas high school football going on, week 1 coming up, and really just all coaches in general. Coaches are the type of people who are in your life when you're playing sports that you remember. You learn a lot of lessons from them. And Coach Ted Lasso he will always remind you of like your favorite coach because of the things that you learn from him. And so Ted Lasso, I love and I look forward to watching it every single week. So that's why Ted Lasso is my one good thing for this week.
My one good thing is Texas high school football is back. I mean, we talked about it all the show. It's got to be my one good thing. So, I mean, you look about how last year went down and how things aren't fully back, but obviously there are going to be more fans in the stands than there were last year. Probably more fans in the stands in week 1 than there was the whole entirety of last season combined. If you were probably to keep track of numbers, it's going to be great. I think there's some great matchups week 1. We're going to be talking about some of those matchups, and I'll tell you why here in a minute. But it's got nothing like it. Can't wait for it. Texas high school football being back, it's my one good thing. And Scotty, we're coming at you live 5 days a week now. So for those, so we're doing our Monday show. So our Monday show is going to be a recap, and then we'll still do our 2 fun segments here at noon or noonish because today Scotty had a doctor's appointment, so we couldn't start right at noon. Tuesday will be our ranking show as always, where we'll bring you our updated VYPE rankings for volleyball and football for Houston, DFW, and Austin, San Antonio. Wednesday will be a VYPE campus show. It'll focus on St. Pius head coach. Let's make sure I get this name right. Let's see.
Greg Cranfield.
There you go. The St. Pius Coaches Show is what we're calling it. That'll be probably for about, I would assume, 10 to 11, 12 weeks or so. That will transition to something else. But for the time being, the St. Pius Coaches Show at noon. VYPE. So we're going to do more than 5. We're coming at you 5 days a week, but more than 5. So at 10 a.m. on Wednesday will be the VYPE podcast coming at you. And then at noon will be the Coaches Show. And then at 6 p.m. Wednesday will be the Coaches Corner, which will be, I think, the Fort Bend Marshall head coach and the Foster head coach, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be the Coaches Corner. We had talked with them about it, and it sounds like Josh got him on board for it. So 6 p.m. Wednesday night, Coaches Corner show. Boom. Thursday, 12 noon. We're doing a preview show where we look at some of the games happening in across the state of Texas, and we just talk about them, what we think about them. And then Friday will be a pick-em show where we will pick some of the games across the state of Texas. Myself, Scotty, whoever else wants to come on. So full slam stuff, man. I'm excited for this. I'm excited to be on 5 days a week, talking football, talking other sports as well. So, yeah, that's what we got on slate starting this week. Now, Scotty, I know you're going to be gone for some of that this week, but you will be back next week. So I may be soloing it for Thursday, Friday, unless I can get Josh or Matt on. But, man, I'm excited, aren't you?
Man, I'm so pumped. This is actually the first I'm hearing about the coaches show on Wednesday nights with Coach James Williams of Fort Marshall. I was talking about him a lot earlier. And who's the other one? Coach Sean McDowell from Foster?
I believe so, yes.
Man, if you watched our watch-alongs or stream-alongs, those guys are electric, and they are just a wealth of knowledge of football. And so their schools are part of the VYPE campus program, and so they're going to be we're doing this with them, and super pumped. Those guys are great.
And, of course, there'll be me. It'll be Scotty. We'll have Taylor on for some of it. We'll have Matt and Josh and Dennis if he wants to be on. So, hey, we'll try to get Mossman on, Shane, So we'll get anyone we want to get on from the VYPE. And, hey, I'm excited for it. It's that time. It's time for, 10 weeks of just I wouldn't call it grueling, just long hours. So as anyone that works in the kind of the sports, high school sports media realm knows, not a lot of sleep going on in the next 10 plus weeks for us. Scotty, before we close out the show, you got anything else you want to add?
Man, we appreciate y'all watching with us. Go to VYPE.com. to check out all of district previews that are out right now. And then, man, it's here. It's Christmas time, baby. Best time of the year. Let's go. Let's go.
That's right. And you can follow us all over social media, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Just search VYPE. I mean, I know in Twitter and Instagram we got a bunch of different accounts for different regions, and then Facebook and YouTube it's just VYPE or VYPE Texas. So follow us, along as we start this season. We cannot wait for Thursday to roll around. Volleyball is in high gear. We got some rankings. Brandeis still killing it, which you'll find out about tomorrow on the ranking show. But until then, I'm Wac. That's Scotty T right there. This has been the VYPE Monday show for Locker Talk Live. We will see y'all tomorrow for volleyball week 2 rankings and football preseason rankings. Until then, peace.